In this file, we're probably going to take a leap of faith in this video. I'm going to change quite a lot, and I'm hoping that you're going to follow me. It might not be necessary. We've seen how to write a handler, an endpoint, but normally in web pages, they don't sort of have lots of different files to pass them on to, such as handler 1, handler 2. They tend to use the same file, just index. And I'm going to go through that and show you what I mean. So first of all, let's open up index.php again, because that's the file I'm going to need. I'm actually going to delete every other file that is in that folder. So let's go and find that folder, local disk, sump, htdocs, and inside sandbox. The only one I want to keep is index.php, so I'm going to delete the rest of the files. Again, I'm using a Mac, so I don't have the ability to go anywhere else. I can't use keyboard shortcuts for that. So there we go. I've got one file. Let's close them down in here. It doesn't exist. Keep it in the editor. No. Okay, and just close down new one. We didn't need that at all. So I've got one file, index.php for my entire website at the moment, and this one file is going to handle everything. First of all, let's get rid of the PHP code that we put in there. That's it. So we're back to square one, and if I just reload that page, we can see what it looks like. What I want to happen is that when I put in sort of first name and last name and press submit, is instead of it going to another file called handler, it actually comes back to the very same file, index.php, and is handled there. And that's quite a task, quite a trick to that one. It's mainly used in web pages such as content management systems, for example, blogs or Facebook. It's a very popular method. And if you're looking at somebody else's code and you're trying to understand it, then this will go a long way to helping you out, seeing what's happening. So the first thing that I need to tell you about is, at the moment, if you remember back, we said that when we get all of our values, our variables, what we're going to do is send them to handler.php, the action. If I delete that and leave action blank, that is exactly the same as saying this. Send it to index.php. I could leave that in now. I could put index.php in. There's no reason to. So I'm just going to leave it blank. Now, that means when I press the submit button, it's going to be index.php that receives it. Let's have a play around. Let's see what happens when we do it. Submit. It's always coming back to this file. So we need to be able to handle what happens when it does that. And one of the reasons why I'm going down this path is to show you a little bit of selection, if-then statements, and what happens with the values if they're present on the address line, in the address bar. And this also has ramifications if you're using a mobile device to actually connect to your website and you don't specify the parameters or something. So this is going to help quite a bit. So the first thing we've got is our action going to the get. We need to include what happened with handler. We need to have that PHP inside here. So I'm going to have a PHP file, a PHP statement, sorry, a block of code, and here I'm going to write pretty much what was in handler. So the first thing I'm going to do is check to see if these values actually had something. As you can see at the moment, first name equals nothing. Join it to last name equals nothing. I'm going to check to see if these values actually have any information in it. And if they don't, I'm going to take some sort of action. I'm actually only going to play with first name, okay? I'm not really going to mess around with the last name. It complicates matters too much at the moment. So I'm going to make an if statement. An if statement in PHP looks like this. If, and then open and close brackets. And so that's going to be the test inside there. And then I've got my body inside the two curly braces. So that's going to be my if statement. So inside here, the test, what I'm going to do is find out if this is empty. Actually, I'm going to work on it the other way around. I'm going to say if it's not empty, let's do something. So not is the exclamation mark or pling. If it's not empty, and what are we checking for being empty? Well, empty is a function, so it will need, I seem to have lost one of my end brackets there. Empty is a function in PHP, and what it needs is the value. We did that in the last one. It is the environment variable get, because we're sending things through get, and then in the square brackets exactly the same as we did before, and in speech marks first name, and don't forget that we are also in PHP, we're going to need the semicolons at the end of lines. What I'm going to do is open up these braces here, and I'm going to put in, well, if first name isn't empty, if it's got a value, then I'm going to print it out. Echo. I'm not assigning it to a variable, I'm just going to print straight out what I've got. This should be familiar to you now. But now I've got to take the case if it is empty. And you know in Python we've got the two cases. We've got if something's true, then an else statement if it's false. So I can write in here some code. Now we're going to be mixing the HTML. So what I'm trying to say is if it is empty, what we need to do is display the form. Okay, this form needs to be displayed if we don't have a value in here. If this is empty, we need to display the form so that somebody can type something and press submit. Okay, now actually we need to move this from there and sort of end my PHP here, because what I want after it is all of my form action, and I need to sort of put this one single brace back together as PHP after I've displayed my form in HTML. I could have written the whole lot out as an echo statement, but with all of the quote marks going on, I would make tons and tons of mistakes. So all I'm doing is stopping my PHP here. So all of this is code. Then I'm going back to HTML to print the form out. And once the form has been printed out, I want to close this off. I'm going to leave that there for a minute, and I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to come back down to here, and I'm going to have a second block of PHP code. And that block is just going to close off my else statement with the curly brace. And then I've got to finish off my PHP code there. So I can now delete that. So now my page reads like this. Goes down to the body, then it's going to work out all of this PHP code. It's going to check if this value up here is empty. Okay, if it's not empty, it's going to print out what the value was in it. If it is empty, it's going to come back down and finish off the PHP. It's going to do the else statement, finish off the PHP, write the form on the screen, then finish off the else statement by having the last curly brace in a separate piece of PHP after this, and then finish. Then I'm going to press submit because I'll have typed something in here, and it should work. So let's see this in action. I think that will make more sense. So let's save it and let's reload it. Oh, I seem to have made a mistake. On line 11. That's one of those nice things. Where are we going? Oh, right. Okay, there we go. You never told me about it. I bet you saw it. Let's save that. Let's reload the page. Let's just take that out and load the page. There we go. Because nothing was set, we were given the two boxes. If I click submit, because nothing is set, I've got the two boxes. I can keep clicking submit, 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 and I'm always running through this else statement here by printing the form out in HTML. However, if I give first name a value, Fred, and then press submit, because first name has a value, it will execute this part of the if statement and just print it out. And there we go. If I take Fred off there again, okay, and reset the page, I get the boxes back. If I give it a last name, so if I call it blogs, what's it going to do? Any ideas? Well, first name hasn't been set, and first name was the only thing we were checking for, so it's just going to ignore this, and it should give me this form when I press submit. Okay, so every time I press submit, because this hasn't been set, if I set it to anything, set it to 2. Okay, now we have a problem. 2 didn't work. Any reason why? There we go. The reason why was I was pressing submit when really I should have been pressing enter on the URL. My fault again. So that's quite complicated. It's quite a difficult thing to go through, a difficult process to go through, but it has enabled us to have a look at a couple of things. The first thing is that we can actually split our PHP code up, okay, over 2 blocks. Okay, we can break out of it and we can have HTML again. Okay, and then finish off our code later. Or we could just have 2 blocks of PHP code. It doesn't really matter. The other thing we learned was that if we took out the file and just left action blank, then it's going to call the same page. And we can use selection, an if statement, to check whether the value was set or the value is unset, and take the action based on that knowledge. And at the moment we're just using the environment variable to get one item from the line, so it didn't matter what we called the second one, or in fact even if we had a third one, even if we put a non-existent one in, whoops, age equals 30, even if we did that, it's not going to make any difference. There we go. Because first name isn't set, we get the form. And if I set first name to Joe, okay, it's still just going to print Joe out. It's not even bothered with this value at the moment. That is an issue, and we're going to deal with that at some point. And that will require a different keyword other than empty. That will require a keyword called isSet, I-S-S-E-T. But we will have a look at that at some point in the future. So that's about it. Did I miss something out? No, just the empty as a function, and we used not empty to actually check what the value was in there.